So with that, I want to welcome you to our special meeting on April 7th. And I'd like to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is public comment. I just want to remind everybody, when you come up to public comment, please state your name, your address. You have about 5 minutes. You can borrow someone else's 5 minutes if you're running. I will try to keep track of time, and I'll give you like a 30-second warning, politely. So if public comment's open, if anybody would like to get up and speak, now's the time to do so. Oh, and Denise, for the record, public comment's open at 4:31.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good evening, Rachel McCormick, 15 Violet Lane. My name's Rachel McCormick. I'm the mother of a 6th grade student at Seabrook Middle School. I'm here tonight because my autistic son is being denied his legal right to a free appropriate public education, FAPE, under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. As of today, my son's been out of school for 18 days since March 20th. Despite an IEP meeting on March 23rd, he is still without a legally compliant IEP or services. He remains out of school, not because he refuses to attend, not because I am willfully keeping him at home, but because this district has failed to provide an IEP that is legally compliant and able to be implemented with fidelity. The district has already acknowledged his current IEP is not appropriate, yet I'm being told by the assistant superintendent that my only options are to send him back under that deficient plan or accept a revised IEP that is also not legally sufficient or able to be implemented as written. That is not a choice, that is coercion. The proposed IEP includes services that do not even exist in practice and cannot be implemented immediately. My son requires a one-to-one registered behavior technician, an RBT. That position has not been filled. There is no provider, no start date, and the administration has refused to contract one out for him. Instead, I'm being told he must wait until someone is hired, while in the meantime being placed with a one-to-one EA educational assistant that the district itself has already acknowledged is not sufficient to meet his needs. So I ask, how is that appropriate? How is that compliant? Right now, my son has no enforceable services, no appropriate placement, no access to his education. This is a denial of FAPE. And the administration refuses to answer multiple emails requesting an interim education plan until they can facilitate a legally compliant IEP. And this is not an isolated issue. Since September, my son's one-to-one support has been changed 4 times, creating constant instability and without proper due process. No IEP meeting to discuss the changes and no notifications to me, all while his IEP specifically states he needs routine and familiar support professionals to maintain his regulation. There have been many times where his assigned one-to-one has left him to support other students, leaving my son without the individual support written right into his IEP. So what is actually happening? The district is assigning a one-to-one, billing and representing that services as individual support, when in reality that staff member is being used across multiple students, leaving every student involved lacking stability. This is not what is written in his IEP. This is not what is being delivered. And that raises serious concerns about how services are being implemented and how funding is being used. Because at the same time this is happening, the board is being told more funding is needed. Funding for what? When the services already written into the IEPs are not being delivered as required, when staff are being stretched across multiple students while labeled as a one-to-one, when critical services like my son's RBT, are not even being provided or contracted out to meet their goal responsibility. It goes further. The district has used my son's data to justify funding for programs like the Peak and Access program rooms from this very board. Programs intended to support students like him, totaling over $300,000 since his 3rd and 4th grade year. But according to the behavioral procedures currently tied to his IEP, when my son is becoming dysregulated, he's not taken into these programs. Instead, he's directed to the principal's office or other staff rooms. This is not an exaggeration. This is written directly into his behavior plan that the administration wrote and placed in his IEP. So I ask, if these programs exist, why isn't my son being taken there? Why is his data being used to fund programs he can't even access? The answer is not student need, it's convenience. The peak room is a 6-minute walk from his classroom pod. So instead of bringing him to the appropriate setting, he is removed and placed elsewhere. Somewhere that has no therapeutic guidance, no direction, just punishment. To address this, I and one of the teachers advocated for a regulation space closer to his classroom. We identified a space within his pod. We were denied. The special education director stated there was no available space, and then rejected the identified space because there was therapy offices next to it and he would disrupt them, stating they would be interrupted by his dysregulation. Let that sink in. A child being denied an appropriate support space because his disability might inconvenience others. This leaves my child in a hallway in front of all of his peers while dysregulated and crying. He can either make the 6-minute walk through a hallway full of peers while dysregulated and crying, or he can go to the assistant principal's office where there's no instruction or education being implemented. Only punishment and seclusion. This is not faith, this is not idea, and that is not the least restrictive environment. And the violations don't stop there. My son's been suspended multiple times this year by administration for behaviors they claim violate the student code of conduct and district policy. This is despite a letter from his pediatrician clearly stating that these behaviors and vocalizations are a direct manifestation of his disability. I have been told directly that this letter from his doctor does not override district policy. Federal law does override district policy. IDEA does override district policy. And they clearly state he cannot be disciplined for manifestations of his disability. Yet they continue to do just that. Instead of implementing services with fidelity to aid in reducing his dysregulation, they issue punishments for behaviors that he cannot control and that are directly triggered by services not being implemented. And disciplining a child for behaviors that are a manifestation of the disability while failing to implement his IEP is not only wrong, it's unlawful.
Rachel, can someone give her more time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It is not only wrong, it is unlawful. There have been instances where my son has been removed from his classroom and kept in offices for up to 4 hours at a time. I am not notified. Instead, my child has had to reach out to me himself using his cell phone and accommodation written directly into his IEP because of these exact prior violations. And even then, administrators attempt to control that communication. They require him to call me on speakerphone in an office with staff present. That is not support, that is control. This is a pattern. My child is constantly removed from his classes multiple times a day. He's missing instruction with no compensatory minutes are offered. His work is sent home for me and my husband to teach and complete. This is not our responsibility. This is the district's. As written in his behavior plan, he is to be returned to class once he is calm. They do not do this. He is held for long periods of time, causing further dysregulation due to his own frustration, understandably so. Decisions about my son are not being made based on his needs. They're being made on convenience, staffing, and control. And throughout all of this, I've CC'd the superintendent, Meredith Nadeau, on every single email I have sent with all of the compliance violations. Not once has she reached out to me. Not once. While my child has gone without education, while services have gone undelivered, while federal law continues to be violated, this has been going on for over 2 years. Services not delivered, records missing, assessments ignored or missing from his file. Assessments this district administered to him and did not have in his file that I then had to furnish for the district. Plans written but not followed. And now my child sits at home without an education, without services, because this district cannot provide what it's legally required to provide. I've been forced to hire both an educational advocate and am in the process of retaining legal counsel at significant personal expense just to secure the rights my child is already entitled to. That should never be necessary, and before I close, I'm asking this board to take into serious considerations the findings of the 2025 Department of Education audit. There are approximately 120 students with IEPs. Out of 24 randomly selected IEPs, 21 were found non-compliant. Yet, at the March 6, 2026 school board meeting, the Assistant Superintendent and Special Education Director sat here and told this board that all IEPs are compliant, that parents have been notified, and corrections have been made. So I ask you, how is that possible? Because I'm telling you tonight that my child is not receiving a legally compliant IEP, and I'm not the only one. Other parents have spoken to are experiencing the same thing, non-compliant IEPs and services not being delivered as written, but they're afraid to speak up for fear of retaliation against their children. So I'm asking that this board order a full audit of all the IEPs. Not internally, not by administration, by an independent outside auditor with no ties to the superintendent or district leadership. I'm asking for a full audit of the special education budget and spending. Because if services are not being delivered as written, how are they being billed? And why is this board being asked for more funding when the funding already allocated is not being used appropriately? This is not a baseless claim. This is my family's lived experience, supported by heavy documentation and evidence. And most importantly, this board hold this administration accountable. Because what we're talking about is not a minor error. These are repeated violations of federal law against vulnerable children. So I ask you, do we really want an administration that has shown over and over again that they do not believe federal law applies to them, that has continually violated children's federally protected rights while telling this board everything's fine? I can tell you as a parent, I have zero faith in them at this point, and I am not alone. I implore the board to reach out to IEP parents. Give them a space to share their experiences without fear and retaliation from administration. Because I promise, my son is not the exception as they claim. He's the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Would anybody else like to come up and speak? The public comment will be open for the next 30 minutes. And so we're gonna move on, if no one wants to come up, we're gonna move on to talk about the default budget and staffing.
Lacey, while you're talking about that, before Matt starts, I wanna make some comments here. First of all, thank you to the mother who was bold enough to stand up to that podium and share what you just shared, cause I'll tell you, you're not alone. And I'm gonna tell you, we can talk about administration, we can talk about in-house, everything, but you know who's really responsible for what's happening to your son? The 5 people sitting right here. This is who you elect to make sure that your kids are getting everything they need, and we are failing. Because we've heard this for years, and nothing's being done about it. Thank God somebody made a complaint to the State Board of Education when we came here. But how much more are we gonna say, okay, we'll take care of you? Instead of putting out the fires, let's all get together and do what this mother said. We've asked the state for an audit. I can't tell you if it's gonna happen or not, but I know, right, we don't know. But this board can certainly say, given the lack of what these kids need, IEP kids, 504, whatever it is, our regular everyday students, we cannot keep sitting here on our hands. It is time to hold people accountable. And with that said, I am gonna make a motion that if the state decides not to do the investigation on the 120 students, that this board will reach out and find somebody to come in and do a complete audit on all 120 students and find out how we're gonna move forward. And that is a motion.
So I need your exact verbiage for the motion. So you want all of that in the motion, you'll have to say it again, please.
The whole thing in the motion. I am asking this board, the board sitting in front of us that voted 5-0, to have the state do it, and they may. I don't know if they will or not, because they never have, so this is new. I'm asking our board, given the years that we've been hearing the same thing over and over again, that we find an outside entity to come in and do an audit. However that looks, whatever we need to do. We cannot keep letting these kids fail year after year after year.
So-
And that's my motion.
So the motion is basically to acquire a third party,
Audit.
for audit on the, IEPs?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second for.
And this is if the
conversation.
state denies our request.
Yeah.
Because I did reach out to Commissioner Davis, I did, she emailed us back and said that she received us and I received our email and our request and I haven't heard back from her.
But we got legal advice too, right?
Yes, we
That
did.
we can't talk about completely, even
Right.
though I think we should, cause you pay for it. But
yeah,
we can't. And I think that at this point, we need to be proactive on our end, cause if this was anybody's kid sitting at these tables right here, we wouldn't even heard about it, it would have been taken care of. And that's not what I want. I want everybody to be treated fairly and every child in this school to be given whatever they need, and not just the children, the teachers in the classroom, the people that work every day with these kids. We expect them to do more, the EAs or whoever it is, and we just keep giving them more to do. But yet we're not looking at what is the real problem here, cause we got a big problem.
So, not to cut you off, Maria, Jen seconded Maria's motion, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would just like to.
You can discuss it, you
Figure
can
out like
open the discussion.
logistically how we would do that.
Acquire financials.
Yes.
Well, we can put it on the
Take it out
agenda
the SAU 21.
we can, put it on the agenda for next week's meeting.
Where do they budget?
And that way we can give Matt some time to kind of look to see if we have, and we can look at possible third parties, because I personally right now at this moment have no idea who does that, what firm does that. So we can put that, Maria, do
I
you
just
feel,
think we need a little more of the details.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Casey,
I don't disagree,
Yeah.
I just think we need more details to figure this out.
okay, so
Yeah.
why don't maybe we could add that to next week's agenda item, and that way we can talk about logistics of that, financial responsibility of that, firms that can do that, and
Yeah.
that way it'll be on next week's agenda.
Yeah, and the only thing I wanna say, I don't wanna hear a thing about money. And you know why I don't wanna hear about money? I sat here while we were reported from Tim Dow that we spent $6,500 beautify room, a classroom, taken away from students. And you know what? I, to this day, as a board member, ask, how could we do that without even coming to the board? And then I get told, well, we had an anonymous person come to us to donate, and we're gonna keep that person anonymous, and we're just gonna take it out of the budget now. I'm concerned, so I don't wanna hear a thing about finances.
I haven't heard that, but
Tim can
let's,
tell you, cause I asked if it was a board member or board member family, and he said it's anonymous, and I'm not gonna be able to share with you.
I don't wanna get off track.
Yeah,
We can
can ask
discuss that at a different time, I don't wanna get off track of this IEP,
Okay.
third party situation. But, let's move that for the agenda, and that way we can, investigate some, firms that can do that for us
Yeah.
and get more information.
and we
Are
can
you,
chat
are you
too.
satisfied with that?
Yeah, I'm not me satisfied, I'll never be satisfied.
No, I
with
know,
stuff
but I'm just
going into
saying, in order
school.
to put it,
This is just a piece of it, for that parent and all these parents.
and Maria, I completely understand your frustration, I think we all share your frustration.
It's sad.
But I just wanna make sure that we're doing this correctly
Yeah.
and that we're, we get our ducks in a row.
Yeah, and I think.
So I
the-
support your motion, I just,
Yeah, well,
need
I
more
think the
information.
best way to put it is that we're giving Matt a directive to look for that, put that bid out. I think probably you gotta put it out there, cause you can't just handpick somebody and then have them say, hey, I work for, a school system, or my lawyer does, or blah, blah, blah. But Matt can find what it is that it would roughly cost and get back to us
Do we-
before the next meeting, because
do
there's
we-
gonna be a cost.
has there been, a third party audit, like this before, that's outside of like a due diligence review from the state? Or an internal, I mean, I'm sure after last month's meeting that there's some sort of internal audit, but like, have you guys ever had to deal with a third party, audit before?
Of special education,
Of
not
special
that I'm familiar
education?
with, but I'm
Okay.
certainly happy to reach out to other districts to see if they've had that
No,
experience.
I don't want, I'm sorry, and I am so sorry, I don't feel like we need to be asking our superintendent to reach out and find somebody for the audit.
I'm not
We need
asking
to,
that.
we need to put it out there.
So is that something that the board wants me to do as chair?
I think, how would you do that? I think you'd have to put that out as a bid through Matt's office.
Well,
That
that's
we're
the
looking for an
superintendent's office.
auditor and then interview them and hire them. I mean, it's a process, I don't want the SAU doing this, I
Well,
think we've
Matt's
given them
office-
enough.
Matt's office is the SAU though.
Yeah, but he's only setting up the bid, somebody has to set
That's
that
all
up to
Meredith
go out.
said was that she could get us some names of companies from.
No, I don't want that. I'm sorry, did you just hear what you said? She can get us names. I want us to just reach out and let those companies come forward that do
But
this.
I'm asking you,
I
who
would
do you
do
want to
that.
do that? Do you want me to do that as a chair to look for people?
Well,
Do you
do
wanna
you-
do it collectively? Do you wanna take that responsibility on and share it with the board? Or,
To write up a bid?
not to write up a bid, but
We
to
need to
reach
know
out
who
to
to give it
third party
to.
companies?
That's the thing, like who would we reach out to?
Well, I think we could probably start right with the people that were here, the State Board of Education, disability department.
Well, we did, I reached out to Commissioner
No,
Davis.
they might have outside auditors they might be familiar with, I will do that, I will.
Okay.
Decision too.
If you're okay with it, I'll do it, I'll do the digging and something's gotta give, and I know you all feel the same way, so.
So does the board feel comfortable with Maria locating third party firms for basically an audit on our special education department?
I don't.
I don't know, any problem with that?
We could handle it collectively,
Yeah.
as well. And then what we'll do is we'll put it on the agenda for next week and we'll collectively until then look for something and we can discuss it at the next week's meeting.
So kind of dig
I
up
think it's-
whatever.
And then
you
in the
want.
meantime, we can ask Matt to try to see if we have what we could accrue financially to cover such costs, so that we know an amount for a bid. Because that, even though I understand the financial part of it, but we still have to have
Well, we don't
So-
provide them the budget, we provide them specifications of what we want done, and then they provide a bid or quote.
right, but so what I basically essentially is what I'm asking is how much money could we allocate throughout our budget, if
Whatever it
that makes
takes.
sense.
So I think we have to go through that process of
Okay.
determining what it
Yeah.
costs, and then we would look to
Where we
see
can
where
see.
we can.
Whatever it takes.
Lacey, we have a
Also, it's challenging
mechanic
you.
position that hasn't been filled.
Where that was removed because of the budget.
The whole thing is we're not
Default,
even
the
leaving at
default.
halftime,
That's a part of the default budget that we're discussing,
cause I
right
think
now.
probably we can discuss some areas where we can hold a little bit to make sure we got funding, I mean, it's
So-
just a suggestion.
So right now, Kelly, I'll get to you in a second. So right now, after public comment, Matt's gonna discuss, the remnants of the default budget that we pushed to tonight's meeting, as well as the upcoming staffing changes that are required. So, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Kelly Huber, 96 Farm Lane, Seabrook. So without insulting anybody, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to a suggestion of asking the very same people that we're having concerns with.
I'm sorry, cause
With the
Lacey
very-
said that earlier about the microphone.
With the very same people that we're having concerns with, not holding this accountable and us getting to this point, looking for bids. So basically, we're getting bids of people that are gonna do this audit, that the description of what we're looking for is gonna be set out by the concerned parties involved. I mean, there's gotta be somebody out there's gotta be an attorney that can be neutral, that could recommend that. And without slandering anybody, I would say that probably it's a good choice for the board to maybe look for an attorney that is also a little bit more neutral in the situation, because we all know that the one you guys went back to, just by watching the Department of Education meeting, there was huge concerns there. I don't know what Maria's talking about as far as the legal counsel you guys received and why you can't talk about it. But I just think that if you're gonna do an audit, it doesn't really, if you're trying to do an audit because you wanna find out where funds have gone based on services that weren't provided, and that the people that kept this from you are gonna be the ones to get the bids. That to me, you must as well just have them do it.
Can't
Just
open
have
the-
them do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, and I think we need to open the bids here at a meeting together.
Just, I don't.
Well, and that's what we're gonna,
Yeah.
thank you, Kelly. That's basically what we're
Yeah.
gonna discuss it, next, as a board at the next meeting. Sorry, this is the first time that I've ever had to deal with a third party, so I don't know who to reach out to, but that's something that I think collectively we can find out and discuss next week.
We shouldn't have to, sadly, we shouldn't have to, but what are you gonna do?
Please state your name.
My name is Rachel Turcott. I live on 205 South Main Street. I have 4 kids. 2 are currently still in this school system. I appreciate you wanting to do the audit. I think all kids need to have exactly what they need. With the, third default budget, my concern, I have 2 gen ed students, is if this is something that we're gonna go through with, is this money going to be then pulled from something else from gen ed students? And if that is, can that really be looked at closer? Because as a third year default, that is inevitably where funds are gonna have to come from if we legally have to meet needs based on what has been said in other board meetings. And if that's the case, it's gonna affect a large population of students as well. I do think something needs to be done. I agree, I feel bad for parents that are struggling. I just hope that you guys will consider the other population that this money might have to come from if we have to pay for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Would anybody else like to speak? Because public comment is almost up to the 30-minute mark, and so I just wanna give anybody that would like to speak, a chance to, before public comments is closed.
My name is William Heredia. I live on 118 Cimarron.
Excuse me, your name again?
William Heredia.
Thank you.
Want me to spell the last name for you?
Yes, please.
H-E-R-E-D as in David, I-A.
Thank you very much.
I have a daughter coming to the Seabrook Middle School for quite some time now. She's a perfect student. Never issues, go to school. Even when she's sick, falling to the ground, she still wants to come to school. Although there's been an issue of bullying. And she speaks up. But looks like speaking up just gets brushed underneath the rug. So she comes to me. I reach out to the principal. I reach out to the teachers. She has an IEP. And she physically sees that they take out the student out of her class to go for a walk and comes back and gets bullied again. Gets their laptop thrown at her, gets kicked and pushed down. You name it, she's done it. Although my daughter don't have a bad bone in her body, she can't even hurt a fly even if she wanted to, she still picks at this student to be her best friend. She still wants her to sit next to her during lunch. She still wants to go on field trips with her and show her how she learns the way that she learns so she can help her, but she still gets bullied. Had a conversation with the assistant principal and principal over the phone. I was at work. And I told them, let's generate an email together so we can communicate and figure this out. I told him, can you take the student out of the class to see if it still goes on? He says, no, we're too late into the season for that. Just last week, my wife got an email. Hey, we saw that you guys took Raylan out of school due to homeschooling. You're absolutely right. Due to bullying. My daughter wakes up crying because she don't want to come to school no more. That's bad. That's bad. You guys sit here and took an oath to protect the students. And for me to reach out to the principal numerous of times about one student, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 10, one, just to pull her away from her, take her out of class, put her in a different subject, put her in a different classroom. No, we can't. But the minute my wife took her out of class and said, I'm gonna homeschool her, oh, well, we could pull her out of class now. I'm sorry, we're in April. It's a little too late for that. It's a little too late to pull another kid out of class after I've been reaching out and my wife's been reaching out, who works overnight as a nurse on a memory care unit, that we're supposed to be treating these people nice, and we're telling my daughter to treat people like nice, but when she says, I come to school to open up to bullying, for people to pick on me, to people to do stuff to me, that's wrong. So what am I gonna do as a parent? I take it into my own actions. I'll go and knock and talk. I would do life in jail for my daughter. I'm at that point. I'm asking the board to do something about it. You figure out why school shootings happens, it starts right here. Literally starts right here in front of you guys. You wonder why all these kids do that stuff? Pull that kid out of class. Talk to them. You guys talk to the parents? I bet you guys don't. Because I'm the only parent that's reaching out. But you guys should be reaching out to them and say, hey, your daughter's being rude. We're gonna have to figure this out. That's how you keep the kids safe. That's how you keep the kids to keep coming back to school. I went to Whittier Tech in Haverhill. I advise all my kids now, you're gonna go to Whittier because they kept me safe and they kept me engaged. And they nipped it in the butt when they saw a bully. You get suspended right away. And if it keeps happening, you get expelled. They don't play that BS game. It seems like here, you guys just forget about it. Oh, they're kids. You're right. They're kids. But kids can be bad too. And if you nip it in the butt right now, they'll be great human beings. But it starts right here in the board. I only could keep so much from my kid. I'm not gonna keep her away from school. She's home now. I want her back in the classroom. I can't teach the math now. I can't teach what they teach now. But the people who took the oath to protect the kids and learn and teach the kids, that's your job. My job is to get my kid to school, make sure she's fed, make sure she has everything in the world that she needs. All you guys do is teach it. I'm not asking anything more, I'm not asking anything less, but please, look into it. I've done my research, and there's a bad track record here in Seabrook. A bad track record. You guys have a chance to fix it. All I ask for you guys is to fix it.
Thank you.
Lisa, can I just say something to him? I just want you to know that you are right, and the bullying in this place is out of control. You're looking at the right 5 people that are responsible for it, because at the end of the day, we hold the administration accountable to you. So with that said, I'm gonna make another motion that this school board sits down with the superintendent and the administration, and we pan out how we're going to follow policy. What are we going to do to not follow restorative justice, but instead our policies? I will tell you, I've been on this board for, I don't know how many years, I lost track now, and I've never had an administrator come to this board and ask for expulsion. And that is part of our policy. If they are continuing to have kids disrupt, hurt, physically and emotionally in this school building, they don't belong here. And we have policy that says so the teachers don't have to deal with that every day, because they're disrupted too. And you as a parent don't have to feel the way you do today, and it happens in this building every single day. And I am a board member telling you that straight up.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
So that's a motion. So this
Can you
board,
please
Maria?
clarify your motion?
uh-huh,
Can you clarify your
yeah, I
motion?
am. I would like the Seabrook School Board to have a meeting, I don't care if it's a work session or what it is, to
Okay,
meet with a work session to meet with the administration. It may have to be a non-meeting in legal, so I don't wanna say what exact type. And we need to pan out how we are going to address bullying in the school. It's out of control. That's my motion.
So we could, we are trying to set up a retreat with administration,
I thought you were doing that with a joint board. I'm talking about our board.
no, the joint board is a completely different board. We do a retreat every year with this board. And so, in May, we were trying to, that was gonna be for next week, because tonight was supposed to talk about, default budgeting and other things. But we can schedule a retreat like we have every year with administration, and that can be the top topic
I think,
to go over. And you can bring a policy anytime too, so if you wanna look
we
at
have policy, Lacey, it's
Right.
following the policy.
Right, and
That's the problem.
we don't, but also the problem is that we don't hear about this, because we're at the board level, we have to stay neutral,
You don't
And I'm
hear about
biased.
what? Bullying in the school?
like specifics.
If you don't hear about bullying specifics
Maria, I
in the
just said
school, I don't
specifics, like I never heard this gentleman's story before.
I've never met this gentleman, but I've met many of
But
you
what
with
I'm-
different names.
But what I'm trying to say is that we need to fix this, and we need to fix this in the correct manner. So what we need to do is we need to change our policy in order to do so. So we can have a retreat with administration, with SAU, we can modify our policy so that children are being held accountable for bullying. Or any type of other behavioral action that's within that policy. So that can be an agenda for our retreat in hopefully May.
Well, May's too far away, Lacey.
So then if you wanna talk about a policy change for the next meeting, then
No,
that's-
if we could, we'll have our regular meeting, we don't have anything on the agenda, so to speak, right now,
but
because
we
it was
do.
an extra one. So maybe we can have a part of that, even a portion of a half hour, where we kind of sit and brainstorm about how we can make a difference with this. What can the administration tell us? What can we do for them? You know what I mean?
No, I get it, but
You can wait till May, but May's the end of the year, and you're hearing this
How
stuff
many
now.
times are we gonna say we're gonna look at the policy and change the policy and just continue to push it, push
okay,
it, push it?
Leah, if you wanna speak, can you please come up and
Yeah,
state your
please.
name? Thank you,
My name's Leah Brown and I live at 118 Cimarron Drive.
thank you.
I mean, how many times are we gonna say that we're gonna change the policy and look at the policy and here we are again?
Because no one has done it yet.
It takes a
Everybody that
shooting.
has said that they wanna change the policy has never brought anything forward to change that policy.
I don't wanna change policy as much as I wanna hold people accountable that are getting paid the big bucks to hold the policies that we have, Lacey.
I understand that, and I'm
That's the
not
problem.
disagreeing with you, but what I'm trying to say
Is it
is that
policy?
this stuff is not brought to us until it is at the judicial portion of it. We don't hear anything about this board, until it gets to either a parent presents to us and tells us what's going on, or we have meetings with legal. So it's really, what I'm saying is, it's really hard for this board, you know, when you say you know this is going on, there can be some ambiguousness of like, is there bullying going on in the school, but we don't know, like this gentleman's daughter, I did not know that was going on with your daughter, and I'm sorry that was going on with your daughter.
But the
We didn't
principal
know
should be
anything
reporting back
about-
to you guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
The principal should be reporting back to you guys, that's your,
Why
that's
but
your
there is an
charge.
issue with confidentiality with students as well.
Come on.
And we're hoping,
Come on.
and I understand your frustration, but we're hoping that it's handled at that level. We're hoping that it doesn't have to get to us, right? I mean, we all
It's
hope that it
been
doesn't even
coming to
have
us
to
for
come to
2
us.
years straight.
Individuals, but we have to maintain like unbiased though, because when they come to us, we have to make an unbiased decision.
How
So
are
my
you
daughter, if my
biased?
daughter punched that daughter
from
in
what
the face,
you
what's
just
gonna happen to her?
I don't know, I don't
She'll probably
know.
get suspended, right?
So.
You hold her accountable, hold the people you
And
put in
now-
the chair accountable too.
And
No,
now
and I'm
it's
not
crazy to hear that
Can we-
kids
Go ahead,
with-
Leah, you have your
kids
5
with-
minutes.
that are having disabilities and everything are being suspended for swearing and everything, but kids that are threatening other kids, they're getting a slap on the wrist, like how? That don't make sense. Something's not right in this school. And there's been proven facts, I've brought it forward, that we're trying to get rid of suspension in the school. Not we, she.
Okay.
She's pushing her own agenda. When is enough enough?
That's not right, she's pushing her own agenda, trust me, I know that all too well. You shouldn't push your own agenda, that's wrong,
Exactly.
that's wrong.
So,
A motion that we have a half hour
tonight,
retreat. When is your meeting, the 14th?
next Tuesday,
Really,
we have a
yeah.
meeting, our regular
If we
scheduled
can
meeting.
have a half hour, I think we need a half hour with them, and I'm not sure if it's open, cause you don't wanna, scar anybody's, reputation or
We
make
can't
anybody
do
look
that.
bad.
We can't do
And
that.
then there can be a half hour of actual out in the open, but something that Lacey, when this board was a different board a year ago, we have a survey for the parents, we had ideas for the staff, we had a survey, we were gonna have a meeting, that got canceled again. We were going to do things to try to bring this all together over a year ago. Since that time, it's all gone away. And there's what are we gonna do? What are we doing as a board? Cause I'm gonna tell you, and I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm telling you, it's our responsibility to hold administration accountable, not Leah's, not the dad, not the other 100 people that have come before us in the last 2 or 3 years. We have a duty, and if we can't do that, all 5 of us get up and walk out the door and be replaced.
That's true.
Cause these kids deserve better. And I'm talking about myself too.
Yeah, cause when you
I
look
sat
at
here
it,
too with this board,
I mean,
and I'm
it's
just as bad as all
She's
of
right,
us.
if you
It's
can't
gotta
do
be
your
more
job,
than
put your
just
position
you
down.
saying
So,
that she's right.
alright, hey, I need a point of order,
Right,
please.
Please.
If you guys could please speak one at a time up at the podium.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So if you would like to, we can handle this two ways. We can add this to the agenda for next week. Or we can contact legal for a non-meeting on our end first. I mean, there's a couple different ways on how this board wants to handle it.
And Lisa, I agree with you, and if you go back a year ago, we had a different legal, and we had a whole lot of legal advice and a whole lot of ground to stand on, and again, that went away and we hired a new attorney. An attorney that we get confused sometimes, cause I'm not sure if they're representing Meredith
I disagree
or the
with
school board, so we have to kind of
No,
look at
Mr.
that.
I
Casassa,
disagree with
it-
I'm not using
represents-
names, I'm saying in general, we've
Well,
had
that's
more
our
than
legal
one attorney.
representation.
Right, and he's been our legal representation for a long
We've had
time.
more than one attorney, Michelle, you weren't
past
here
board that-
before.
You guys picked,
Alright, so I will say to
I
the
know,
public,
because they were
I'll make a
fighting for
we're gonna
kids.
put that on our agenda for
They didn't
next
know
Tuesday
the
to have a
RSA.
discussion, excuse me, we're gonna
But they
put
do have
this,
ties to her when you do your research. Your
We're-
attorneys.
we're going to put
I
this,
have done
What
my
was that?
research,
I
thank
didn't-
you.
alright, point of
I
order,
get it.
point of order,
What?
okay?
It's not that
We're
hard.
not, Leah, please, we're not going back and forth. We're trying to fix a problem, okay? We're not arguing, we're trying to fix a problem.
This is why we can't fix it.
We're trying to fix a
No, we
problem.
can't fix it
So,
because you're not willing.
please, point of order.
You're the one with the argument against it.
So,
Do you not see her sitting there with a smirk on her face?
Leah, please. Please,
I can do the stare down too, Michelle.
there's no,
I'm just looking
no
at
need,
the way-
okay.
Please, can I just
Next, oh, can you give me 1 second, Kelly, so I can finish a sentence, please? Next week, on the agenda, at the end of the agenda, we will put, so that we have time to sit with administration from SAU and from the school building to talk about bullying, policy on bullying, enforcing the policy on bullying. Is that satisfactory to the board? That's the best I can do right now at this very moment. Okay? Is that okay? And we will be here next Tuesday, 4:00, 4:30.
so that doesn't need to be a
That doesn't
motion,
need to be
just-
anything, that's
correct.
just for public knowledge and for board knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lacey, in the meantime, will you have that survey already written for the parents?
No,
Can
I don't have a survey available for the parents.
Alright, I'll look for it and see if we can work on it before the next meeting we
Okay.
talk about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it still open?
Yes, it is.
Samantha Magnarelli, 198 South Main Street. I hate talking up here, sorry guys, but I just wanted to come up, I'm a parent that has 3 students that came through the school district. One that did have a 504, and 2 gen ed kids, and one that dealt with bullying within the middle school. I'm just asking that when you guys also, now I have 2 gen ed kids in the elementary school, and I know that you're doing your default budget today, and I know you're moving things around, but I also would like you to make sure that we don't leave that population behind, because we are in our 3rd year of a default budget, and at the end of the day, special ed is required to meet certain needs, and I am just concerned that that is coming at the expense of our gen ed kids, and I hate to see that continue to happen. So as you guys are making your changes, can you just think about how it impacts all of the students? And I know we have to meet those requirements, but there is a population of other students that aren't getting their rights as well within our schools. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam.
Laura Litkovsky, kindergarten teacher. I understand it's been super important discussion, but I know public comment is just about over. Considering we haven't even discussed the proposals, will public comment be open again after the proposals?
I would.
I was gonna ask for that, Lacey, to be honest with you. If we could
So-
have public comment after all the discussion.
Okay, but can we so I understand the importance of public comment, and I've been on that side before as well. I'm a parent, I understand it. Can we I would like to pause public comment so that we can just get through this meeting and discuss this, and then, so it's not, as we're discussing, people are coming up, it would be completely after we're finished.
Yeah, that was my
Just so
point,
that
will
we
you
can
open
get
it
through
again
this.
so that people can comment on, I have something I'd like to say, but it's about one of the proposals, I'm not going to say it before it's even been proposed. You know what I mean?
No,
So I
I
would like the
understand.
opportunity, once the proposals are done, to be able to have that chance.
I understand. And I don't wanna take anybody's right to speak because that's important, but I also want to get to the proposal.
Understandable, yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, I wanted to wait till afterwards anyway, just hoping that you'll open it again.
No, we will.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So if anybody doesn't mind, we're gonna pause public comment so that we can, move forward with the agenda, and then like Laura requested, we will open it after, we get through our default budget and staffing portion of the agenda. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Lacey, before we discuss proposal there, can he hand out, he has copies he gave to the board, but can you give the rest of them out so if anybody in the audience would like to see the proposal, they can have it in their hand and know exactly what we're speaking about?
So the proposals are on board docs, and there are some copies on
Where
the
are they?
table for anyone that would
Okay.
like to have a
I'm
physical
gonna
copy.
close it and then we'll read.
We'll reopen it, that's absolutely fine.
Thank
Thank you
you.
Denise. 517 for reference, thank you, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Oh, alright, Matt. It's all you, but.
Thank you. So tonight we'll be presenting two proposals for the board's consideration. As I mentioned, they are on board docs for review. And that is the proposed FY27 default budget plan, as well as a proposed staffing adjustment plan. So together, those two proposals do reflect the reality that we as a district must operate under the reduced default budget, while also keeping in mind that we need to meet legally mandated student service requirements. So with respect to the default budget, we do have that does require us to reduce our proposal by $166,400. As you know, this is the fifth time since 2020 that we are operating under a default. So that continues to create challenges with our staffing, services, and resources in order to support our students. So to reach that default budget amount, we are recommending several targeted reductions. Now, I know this is somewhat repetitive, I did present this at the last meeting, but I think it's important to just to go over again. So this includes leaving a vacant half-time technology assistant position unfilled, reducing, so that totals $28,387. Reducing a vacant full-time maintenance mechanic position and restructuring that to work as a split groundskeeper and maintenance role. That will reduce the budget by $79,004. Reduce the food service chef position from 37.5 hours per week to 30 hours per week, and that totals $13,888. And then making distributed reductions to a number of supplies and equipment accounts across departments, totaling $45,121. On board docs, I have included the budget summary. That's the Excel sheet that shows every account. So that reflects every account, supplies and equipment account, as well as these staffing reductions. I also emailed you those specific supplies and equipment accounts. But that in summary is the default budget proposal. Do you wanna pause there before moving on to staffing?
I just have questions.
Yes.
If I could, Lacey.
Yes, go ahead, Maria.
So can you explain, when you're saying reduce the FTE maintenance mechanic, reduce it and make it a shared, how about we get rid of it completely, because we haven't filled it for a year, and leave that amount, it'll be more than 79,000. We haven't used it, we haven't filled it.
So that's a retirement that just occurred in January.
Yeah,
So what we're proposing is to not fill that position.
and
So that
it's not,
isn't, that
is
is,
it more than that though?
no, that's the full cost with benefits.
You're saying it's a shared though, so it's not, so 79,000 covers everything, including the benefits, to
That's,
take away that whole
so
position?
that individual, so that there's no health insurance
Okay,
in there, so it's a little bit lower because that happened to be a position that did not opt in.
okay, that
Um,
makes sense.
So we are eliminating that entire position, and then you know,
Technology, okay, and then reduce the shelf to 13,888. Our board had discussed on more than one account how schools, many schools, don't have chefs. We have a chef. We also have a director. So I would propose to take that whole chef position out, as we talked about a year ago, and have the director in control with her workers to be able to provide menus and things. Schools around us don't have chefs, but we do, because we are a little bit more luxury, we had a little bit more money. Well, guess what? Default budget 5 years later, we can't afford to continue to have a chef as nice as it sounds. That is what a food director should be doing with her workers, or his workers. So what is the full cost of that food, the chef? Because the reason I'm asking that, just so the board knows, is that I don't wanna take money from supplies and accounts and things away from, cause who does that take the things away from? Teachers and kids. And the teachers already spend their money. Parents already donate what they can. So what is that full cost of that really extravagant chef position that we have? What's the full cost?
yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as extravagant.
Well, I think it's
all of our
luxury.
kitchens, all school programs have
A director.
individuals that cook the food, and there's different titles for that role, and that's certainly pretty common. But I can, we can look that up. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can certainly.
But that would be cutting a whole, that would be cutting a whole person out of there. Does the chef do, like, serve food and because that's cutting a whole staff member out of the kitchen?
According to what we were presented by the director when they were here, they do the preparing of the food, but they don't do the serving of the food, the workers do. So he serves at a very expensive cost, so, cause we could have a person come in and work that job at a 5-hour cost. So if it's just cause of the serving, we can work on it. I'm just saying, if we're looking for money and we really wanna not have to go out and ask special town meeting to vote in more money so we can keep spending, or can we look at things that aren't necessary? We don't have to have a chef here, we have a high educated director like we always used to. We didn't have a chef here, you know what I mean, and I love the idea of it, but is it necessary? The kids will still get their food, they'll still be fed with their workers and their director. So that chef position, I think, is something that we need to look into the full cost of that. Cause I think if I were to guess, you're paying a chef, it's a lot of money, and you shouldn't, it should be in front of you, at least what he or she is making.
Yeah, I have it in front of me now that I've pulled
What
it
is
up,
it?
now that you've asked me for that
Thank you.
information, you didn't ask me in advance.
No,
So the total budgeted amount, for that salary is $40,390, that's the salary. I will note that the food service program is separate from the general fund, right? So it receives revenues via the National School Lunch
Mhm.
Program, free and reduced reimbursement, as well as revenues from students and staff paying for lunch. So that's not, those expenditures aren't coming from the general fund, it's coming from revenue. We do have an interfund transfer budgeted for $20,000 to cover any deficit that we have. So that comes from the general fund into the food service fund. So that's another area where you could potentially look at reducing is potentially the interfund transfer.
Do they have benefits? Is that the 40,000 isn't the benefits, right, for that position for the chef?
So this,
Cause some do, some don't.
the salary is $40,000. The benefits would include FICA, so that's
Roughly.
7.65% of that salary. Then that position does previously had qualified for health insurance, but by reducing from 37.5 to 30, it no longer qualifies
But it did,
for
it
health
wouldn't
insurance. So that's
qualify.
essentially the savings of $13,000.
So how much was it? How much was benefits?
Well, like I
That was
said,
in the
that's
budget.
that was the 13,000 reduction was the salary and the benefits that were
Okay.
reduced, so.
Okay, so that's like, $53,000. So thank you for that, Matt, and I didn't ask you ahead of time, cause I don't come to these meetings with, okay, this is what I'm gonna do or not gonna do. I come and I listen, and I think, and I hear, and then I decided, hey, maybe that's a place to look. And I do think it is, and when I say that is because, Casey, graciously asked for information, and she got some pretty thorough information here on what's needed for special education. And when we want to go and say, oh, we need this money, or maybe we can do this, we can do that, I really think that as a board, the decision to financially make it tonight, I think is premature. I know, I just got this stuff, what was it, I don't know, maybe, was it yesterday that you ended up forwarding me, Casey, and your, information?
Everybody got yesterday.
Well,
Well, you didn't, you
Yeah,
got
I
it
mean, we-
Friday
we-
yesterday,
we'd sent you the
Okay.
proposal last month, you've had the proposal for a month.
yeah,
The requested information that Casey asked for, I sent
To everybody,
yesterday, right.
yesterday, immediately upon receipt of the request, so.
So I just, and I'm gonna sit here and say this, and I'm, hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but before I want to cut a teacher out of this building with the academic needs of our general education and our special education students, I will not do that. And I know we can say, oh, give kids 50, littles, they'll be alright. You know what, guys, wake up, reality, things ain't alright. But yet, we want to fund 2 special education teachers, not even really knowing the need. And, cause I don't know the need, you can pass me this FTE stuff all day long, but at the end of the day, we have case managers for every single grade in this building. No other school has
So we're
that.
we're kind of conflating 2 issues here. One is the default budget, which has nothing to do with the special education staffing.
Okay, so you wanna,
So we can certainly move on to that proposal if
Okay.
you'd like, but I thought we were focused on the
okay,
default
we'll do
budget.
this one first.
We're focused on the default at this
Yeah.
time, thank you.
Yeah,
My concern with Maria's idea is with the removal of the chef, okay, but we would have to add some, because part of the budget was we cut back some part-time servers' hours.
Yeah.
So we would have to, it wouldn't be a clean $50,000 deduction
No.
because we would have to find the staff in order to make up for the serving, the things that the chef did outside of the chef role.
mhm,
So it wouldn't be a clean 40 or 50,000 cut because we
Right.
would have to make that up elsewhere with other servers.
right, and Lacey, you bring up a good point, cause I don't know about all of you, but I got an email from a worker asking, cause their hours, they had came here publicly as well, have been cut from 5 hours or 5.5 to 3. And they're asking why, because they can't sustain. And so if we need to give 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week to keep that person serving, cause they don't need them right now, supposedly, then we could do that, and that's such little money. I mean, what are you talking? I mean, I'm talking little money, change, to be able to have that server there for the 5 or 5.5 hours that they were originally working.
So that was $8,490.
So I guess we have a lot to look at with the default before we make those grand decisions. And you can make them, cause there's 4 others of you that can go ahead and vote and accept it. Or we can kind of really look at dollars and cents and say, okay, that's 50,000, we may have to expend 6 of that to be able to have the servers, but we're still saving over $40,000, and that's just a hypothetical. And that's the stuff that, we need to do. Matt's there all day to help us, but at the end of the day, it's us that needs to make those tough decisions.
The resignations that are on here are public, right? No,
No,
are they not?
not until, the board acts.
Because it might solve some of the problem that we're talking about right now.
I don't know,
Why?
well, we can't talk about it yet.
Oh, right, okay. Well,
Um,
I should do that first.
How,
Does anybody, go ahead, anybody?
Yeah,
have
why
questions?
can't we talk about resignations? We don't have to talk about people, but why is that a thing that the public cannot know? Because whether we accept or don't accept, at the end of the day, they're gonna know. So why is that, Meredith, that's not, cause that's a tough thing, we can't discuss that, and it kind of feeds into what we're talking about. Are you saying that we cannot discuss?
You can certainly take the agenda out of order, that's not up to
Oh,
me.
that's nothing, do
Discuss
that
it
all the
in
time.
non-public.
No, but it's listed.
Yes, it is
It's not
listed.
listed under non-public.
Yeah,
But you discuss it first in non-public and.
And then
No, you don't have to.
Resignations don't
No.
have that.
you don't
Those are
have to.
non-public, you can't.
For something we do, but for this,
The resignation
it's
is
clean,
public.
we accept it.
Right, but we don't say people's names.
It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
you can say position. There's nothing secretive to all of you at the end of the day, cause guess what, you pay the dollars. So, if we can talk about the position,
We're
Jen,
trying to put it in the correct order,
the position you're talking about is,
do we have to go to non-public
Jen,
first?
no, I'm asking
Okay,
Jen.
so we can, so we're gonna, so if you guys wanna, hold on, if you
I'm
guys,
talking about
Maria.
Jen Bassett.
Maria,
Yeah, but I don't know what she's saying, how do you know?
Because we all got it last week.
From Jen?
No, it's in
No.
our agenda.
I'm talking about Jen, the
Yes.
board member.
Jen is saying something on our agenda that.
How do you know?
Because we had it.
No, how do you know what
She
Jen
just said
saying?
it.
I don't know what you mean, Jen, I'm sorry.
Alright,
alright, I need a point of order, guys.
No, what do you mean?
So we can, to kind of piggyback on what Jen had mentioned, we're gonna, jump to 4B under personnel. We don't have to discuss this in non-public. So basically what Jen is talking about is we received a letter, thank you, we received a letter, from Lindsay Gocher, who is, I'm sorry, I don't know her official title. Food Service Director, thank you. That says, I'm writing to formally resign from my position as School Nutrition Director at Seabrook Elementary and Middle School with my last working day being June 30th, 2026. It's been a pleasure working under you both, meaning Colleen and Tim, and I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Lindsay Gocher. So we can accept her resignation tonight and we can discuss it because Jen brought that up while we were discussing food service.
Okay, motion to accept.
Are you accepting those resignations?
Yes, we can, there's another resignation, thank you, Meredith, there's another resignation, from, is this, no, I still colored over, sorry. Dear Mr. Dow, I'm writing to let you know that I will be resigning from my position at Seabrook Elementary School at the end of my contract. This was not an easy decision, as she has enjoyed being a part of this community, what a huge loss. It's Kim McQueen. Am I saying that right?
That was right,
Well,
I
so-
want them to hear out there.
It's kindergarten.
Right.
Yep. So she is resigning, and what a great teacher. My kids had her. She's amazing. Such a good person as well. And it's unfortunate that she's leaving, and I wish her the best. So I'll entertain a motion.
I don't wanna do two motions with that, Lacey, I want them separate.
Right, I'm entertaining a motion for Kim.
For the teacher,
Yes.
and I'm not seconding it, someone else can, but I wanna
Alright,
discuss.
so I need to know which one, cause I only have motion. I only
Okay,
have one motion in there,
this is
so I'm
seeming way
gonna-
harder than
Motion
it
to
should
accept
be.
the resignation of Kim McLean effective June 30th, 2026.
I'll second.
Okay.
Maria, you have a discussion?
We have a second?
Yes. Do you have a discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question, so our board, and I'll say it again, a year ago, when people were leaving for whatever reason, we invited them to come to the board and, have a exit interview. And I know we haven't done this on this new board, but I would hope that we would at least afford that to her. And so we can hear how we can improve better and sustain people. So that was just I just wanted to make that comment out.
Okay, thank you.
So I need to know who made the first and who made the second.
Casey and Jen.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Jen, you too?
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you.
Can I entertain a motion for Lindsay Gocher?
Motion to accept the resignation of Lindsay Gotcher effective June 30th, 2026.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And Maria, you as well?
Yeah, I said
Thank you.
And so back on the exit interview, is the board interested in offering that exit interview with us if they wish to do that? Is there anybody interested in still doing that, or are we not gonna do that anymore?
I'm not interested in doing that.
So 3 of you are not interested in exit interviews. Okay.
So to go back to default budget and staffing. So we were just talking about, Maria mentioned about cutting the chef position completely. Am I correct, Maria?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, obviously now we have to go out and advertise for a director, which they could apply for that. I mean, that's the wonderful part.
So I think if we entertain the cutting of the chef, then we're gonna have to postpone this so that Matt can run some numbers on, what it looks like to cut the chef position financially, what they need to add back into services, because we had cut a part-timer. We would most likely have to give that part-timer more hours or maybe hire another part-time, I'm not sure how that looks,
Yeah.
so. Yeah, that would be something, if that's what the board wants to investigate or ask Matt to. That's something, do we have a deadline where we have to complete the budget?
No, I mean,
Okay.
before the fiscal year begins.
Right.
Unless the only kind of deadline would be if there were some sort of staffing change that would require notice. But these items, I mean, we would obviously wanna know sooner than later, and they
Yeah.
need to be before the fiscal year begins.
Does anybody have any other questions about the proposal that is in front of us tonight?
Are we gonna, Lacey, you had asked for a breakdown on the supplies
Yep,
and
and that's,
equipment, are you satisfied with that?
he provided,
Yeah,
well, you had mentioned that you didn't wanna take supplies away from the teachers and you wanted to cut the chef's position instead to fund that extra, but he provided a 4-page budget and showing in the last column basically the default plan, so he's showing like the difference between the final action and the default plan, so any showing which line item that'll be coming out, so I don't know if you guys had time to review.
Yeah,
I had also emailed you a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Back in March, those specific accounts.
Yes.
yeah.
Thank
I
you
just
for that.
didn't know if any of this would change, like for instance, the food service part of it. You know what I mean, if we end up doing something different, or health services, if any of that would change for this proposal, that's all, just, I mean, you could put it in if you want, but
I'm not certain what you're asking.
I don't know if there's food services listed here under the reviews, supplies and equipment account, I don't know if that affects actual, if it would be workers or what it would be.
That would be a reduction in supplies.
Yeah.
In the food service account, I mean, so it's all dependent on what you decide. So
Yeah.
that's our proposal.
So what's kind of,
We can, it's at the board's discretion as to how you wanna proceed.
So, it's my understanding just from this conversation that there's two options. There's one option to take the proposal that Matt has presented for the default, and then there's another option where we discuss this at another meeting and we look at possibly removing the chef. But when we do, we need to be very specific so that we can get correct numbers, so that we're not postponing it for another meeting, so that we can get a default budget going before June 30th.
right, get it done.
Right, so, if anybody would make a motion in either direction, if they want to wait on it and get more information from Matt, or if they wanna accept the current proposal as is. Just to get things moving.
So a motion to wait until the next meeting to give the numbers regarding the chef position. But I'll make that motion.
Do you need a motion for that, Meredith? No, you can
I just wanted it to be crystal clear on
Yeah,
what
you
we
can
were
just
doing.
make a decision.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry, I misspoke about the motion, I just wanna be very crystal clear on the directive for Matt, on what Matt, there's a lot of work goes into this, so.
Yeah, what are the specifics
Yeah, so,
that you want Matt
Would
to
it be-
bring forward?
Reducing the chef position and allocating that responsibility into
The
the
director.
director and current staffing and what that would look like if we needed additional staffing, is that, I think that's what.
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So we'll work with the director to determine the feasibility of that plan of action, what those ramifications are, what potential trade-offs or benefits and what that cost saving should be. And I'll have that prepared for you.
And then, just,
I have one question for you. You said at another meeting, do you wanna
Yes.
specify what meeting?
The 14th.
we'll
For it
do,
to be
we'll
on
do
the-
the 14th.
14th.
Does that give you enough time, Matt? I'm sorry, I know it's only a week.
Okay, so yes.
Sorry.
I will have it prepared for you by next week.
I appreciate
you.
that, I know how much work it is. And if there's any questions between now and then, please email Matt ahead of time so that he can get the answers for the next board meeting. Alright, so we will move to talk about staffing.
Thank you. So as you know, we do continue to face a significant special education staffing need. This has been a challenge that we've been trying to deal with this year, and we expect additional need next year. So during the budget development process, we did conduct that staffing analysis and determine the need for two positions that were not included in the adopted budget. Now, when I say two, it's really only one net new. One of those positions is removed from the IDEA grants into the operating budget, but that was the original plan. So that again is based on IEP required services, and when we went through the budget process, the board had decided to fund those positions through alternative means. One was through a separate warrant article, and one via the Special Education Expendable Trust. Unfortunately, as we know, the warrant article failed. In addition, the expendable trust contribution failed at ballot. And this year, we do expect to need to make a withdrawal from that trust due to overages in special education this current school year. We also have two anticipated out-of-district placements for next year, totaling approximately $270,000. So we expect that we'll need to make a withdrawal next year as well. So that would substantially deplete the trust. So neither of those options are viable. As you know, the operating budget is extremely lean. We're in a default budget, so there really is no room in the budget to absorb those costs. And we're struggling with that with this default budget discussion as we just witnessed. We do have two staffing adjustments that we are recommending. So the first is, as we just heard, we received a resignation from a kindergarten teacher, and based on our projected kindergarten enrollment of between 40 and 45 students, we are recommending to not fill that vacancy and instead use that position to hire a special education teacher. That would result in class sizes that still remain very small, between 13 and 15 students. Additionally, those kindergarten classes would each have an educational associate in their classroom for additional support, so there would be two adults in a very manageably sized classroom. So that's the first staffing adjustment. The second is we are recommending to reassign a general education reading specialist to a special education reading specialist role. And that again is due to the failure of that teacher warrant article. So this that approach is there are no good answers here. We understand that there's going to be an impact no matter what staffing adjustment we make, but we do feel that this minimizes the disruption to that individual and to that function. That function would essentially remain the same, but those reading services would shift from general ed to special education students. So we do feel that we can still preserve strong reading intervention support with this staffing that we have in place. Continue to work on our tier 1 instruction, and it also avoids the alternative, which would be looking at reassigning a classroom teacher to that special education role. So that would be, that would be the alternative. So in short, we have two positions that are needed, and we feel that those two staffing adjustments have the least impact on student learning while maintaining our required services that we do need to meet.
So the only question I have on that, Maria, sorry,
No, that's okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
thank you. The question I have on that is, we just got a wonderful presentation at the last meeting about kindergartners and how wonderful they're doing. And I know it actually works out well where we have a resignation and we're not letting anybody go. But is kindergarten the best place to remove a teacher? Tim, if you could.
Part of the decision there was just our projected incoming enrollment. We do anticipate that it would still make class sizes relatively small at around 14 or so. However, I would be prepared if needed to do that at a different grade if for some reason we had 60, or if we had a really big influx of incoming kindergartners that we do not anticipate. At which point I think we would have to come back to the table to discuss what grade it would make the most sense. But I do think 14 kindergartners is reasonable, especially with the EA in the classroom.
So, Lisa, can I go next?
Yep.
So I'm gonna reel back in history here, cause we sat at this table as a board and we went for hours about taking interventionists, putting in teachers, putting in the special education teachers. We all sat here and said, no, we're not gonna take intervention. Why? Because intervention right now is key, and you know what, your staff came up and gave a wonderful presentation on what it is doing with the size they have, what they've been able to do with those kids, how advanced those kids are. But yet we sit here and say, if we take one away and it's okay and we don't fill it, but we're still making those class sizes bigger. We're not sticking to we want our kids to do better academically. That big elephant sitting over there still, the math and the reading in the school needs help. We're not done. And when we start pulling from there, I don't understand how any administrator would support that, but that's my opinion. And then the other piece that I want to bring to the table is we talk about this all the time, special education. I did my research. I don't just sit here and speak, and no school is as lucky as we are to have the case managers, the special education, aides, the paraprofessionals. They're not as lucky as we are, and they make it work. How do they do it?
They don't make it work, cause we just had a whole meeting last month about how we're not making it work.
Lacey, you can follow on that. I'll help you in a minute with what I feel about it.
Okay, go for it.
So I don't feel as though, I asked, can I see a breakdown? How many case managers, how many kids, are case managers being utilized as special education teachers?
Yes, they are the special.
Yeah, so they are teachers and there's one in every grade. So how can we utilize or kind of shift the kids to get the help in that area? The thing I'm telling you right now, and I'm saying it as a board member, we need to focus on gen ed and special education evenly. I know we're mandated with a lot of things that we have to do, but I have not seen in front of me why we need to pull 2 special education teachers. We got this big FT, whatever thing is fine, but I have not seen any type of, can we reallocate? Can we use, I don't know, I'll throw out a case manager position in one grade or the other in every grade to kind of funnel in maybe 8 of these kids that need that special classroom thing versus taking a regular education teacher away and not filling it. I understand they've resigned and they're done, but still we're putting an impact on those kids in that classroom that we're going backwards. And I haven't seen enough information to tell me that we actually need to hire 2 full-time special ed teachers. I would like to sit down with the special education department, with all of the staff, case managers included, and talk about how could we make this work? Brainstorm, could we make this work? And I'm gonna tell you something else. 15 years, I think, sitting as a board member, I have never voted to go against the vote of the people, because you know what? Years before that, I was drilled by Viola Brown, don't ever do that. When you're a board member, you don't forget, you are the people's voice. And when they tell you no, just like a parent tells you no, it means no. And now we're going a roundabout way and say, well, we're mandated to cover these services. Show me that we don't have enough in-house as it is right now to cover those services, because right now, I have not seen that. So I disagree with hiring 2, I'm sorry.
One of these positions, I just wanna clarify, which I brought up the last 5 minutes we've talked about this, is a current position that was not filled, that is being filled between shared staff and a contracted person. Like one of these is new, but one of these is not new, it's already a position that's here. The difference was that as we have different grants, certain positions, salaries are paid through the grants. This position was moved from the general budget to, I forget what grant, Yep. And so then we sat and talked about this. I did not vote to put it on the ballot because it's already a position that exists. It was the third grade case manager, left, gave notice in July, they posted, nobody hired. Now we're contracting somebody to fill some of that spots, and then there's other staff filling some of those spots. So one of these is new, I hear that, but the other one, that's not a new position. It just got shifted around how we're paying for it, and then it got made seem like it was an add-on, but it's not an add-on, it's something that was already here and already needed to be filled.
Is the money in the budget for it, so we're not adding no money, we're not needing any money for it, 'cause it's already allocated?
For this current budget year, but not for.
No, for next year,
Not
the
for
money's
not
already
for next
there.
year, like
No,
as
that's why
Casey
we're at
just
the table.
outlined, it's
That's
coming
right.
out of the grants,
And
it's
that's
going
the point.
So I think the data is pretty overwhelming. All of our data analysis shows that we need these positions. Anecdotally, you hear stories from parents, from staff, that we're not able to provide the services because we are understaffed. The DDR results indicated that we're not able to fulfill the services. We need these roles, plain and simple. So I don't think there's any question about that. Now, when we removed those two positions from the operating budget and put it in as a separate warrant article and then the expendable trust, we effectively removed it from the default budget. So had we had left it in the budget, we'd have these positions budgeted. That decision was made, we can't go backward, but the fact remains is we do not have the funds, but we need to make these hires to meet our legally mandated, to provide the services that we need to provide to our students.
Right, and I wanna see those legal mandates, Matt, 'cause saying it over and over again, I'm gonna go back to Lacey's comment. We have issues with IEPs, right? We know that, we're dealing with that right now. It did not happen overnight. These IEP issues, if you listen to parents, some of them go back 2 or 3 years ago. So to take that and run with it and say that's the only problem, oh, we didn't have 2 full-time teachers, that's why we failed providing services, and that's why we billed Medicaid for services not provided. I am not buying that, not for a
We have
minute.
not billed Medicaid for services not provided, and I wanna be very clear about that. You have to have documentation to bill for services, and the problem that we have expressed to this board and that you heard from the folks at the DOE was that documentation was not in place. While the majority of those services were provided, staff did not document them as required under the statute.
Meredith, in the medical field, if you are a
Yeah.
nurse or a doctor and you do not document your patient's care, it did not happen.
I understand that, Maria, I'm not arguing that.
And that's
I'm saying
the
that's
end of it.
exactly why Medicaid wasn't billed, and that's what I'm clarifying.
But
So
Medicaid
to
was
accuse-
billed, cause
to
we're
accuse
making up
folks
the
of
time,
Medicaid-
right?
No,
Why are
to
you
accuse
making
folks
up,
of Medicaid fraud, I think is crossing a line that's not appropriate.
how do we know it isn't? I don't know,
Well, I'm not going to
so that
put
you
Denise
brought
on
it
the
up, I
spot.
mean,
No, actually, you brought it up, and I'm just clarifying, you can't bill for services that have not been documented.
So-
Documentation is what triggers billing to Medicaid.
so why
So
are
when
we
there was
making it
not
up?
billing, I'm sorry?
Why are we making it up like after school and doing different things?
It has nothing to do with Medicaid, it has to do with the responsibility to deliver the services required in the student's individual education plan, which is required under federal law called IDEIA, as it was reauthorized.
And then you can bill them, right, once you fulfill those
The
services?
majority of services are not billable.
Did you send papers out for parents to sign off that they agree with the IEP and that they agree with billing? Cause I think you have to get permission.
Parents are required to do that in order
No, we're
for
not.
us to bill.
No, we're not. You tried to DocuSign us 2 years later when DOE took over the audit to have us authorize it. I have the screenshots. Don't lie to them, be honest. Be honest.
I am
Don't look
being
at them,
honest
look
to
up.
the best of my knowledge.
And I'm
I do
just-
wanna jump back to say that special ed students are general ed students first. The majority of those students spend 80% or more of their day in the general education classroom. They are required to receive these services, and yes, it's
terrible that they have not been provided to the extent of that
Under
documentation
your
is not in
watch.
place.
And
Yes,
we've been under a
I'm well
default
aware.
budget for 3 years.
That's not a reason.
When it's required by law, I think it is a reason.
To not provide services because we're in default, Michelle, no.
Not provide services, not provide people. We don't have enough people.
We don't?
I had some
No, we
questions about
don't.
these proposals.
Yes.
Maybe we can go back to that.
Go ahead, Case.
For kindergarten, I know currently, all the kindergarten classes have a kindergarten teacher and kindergarten EA. I also know that incoming kindergartners will have their own bout of needs, so question being, for the students with more needs that maybe have one-to-one support now or shared one-to-one support now, will additional EAs be placed in those classrooms, or will the gen ed EAs that are in kindergarten there to support the teachers and potentially higher classroom sizes, then be expected to, in addition to help with more students, also help
It's
the
driven by
students
what's in the
with
IEP, so if the IEP requires individualized support, that's typically in addition, we budget for and plan for that to be in addition to the general ed EA. As you know, we've had 3 vacancies this year, and so the general ed EAs have been helping to pick up some of that service delivery. So if positions are filled, then it will be additional support.
And then I had a question about intervention. You know, changing the students who are being serviced from regular ed students to special ed services for intervention. The special ed teachers do a lot more than just that. So would that also fall to intervention, or would that person only be doing reading and then the other parts of that job fall to other existing special ed teachers?
The latter, what you just described,
Okay.
the interventionists, if they were moved into that special ed role, would be delivering reading support to students who are identified for special education who are required to receive those services through the IEP.
And then the other parts of that role would fall to the other people or to her as well?
The other parts of
Like writing the IEP?
those would fall to other special educators.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yes, this
So
person would be strictly
just
delivering reading instruction.
Are there any other questions regarding, staffing need, teachers?
Just, I don't think as a board we have enough information concrete in front of us to make a decision tonight. And I would ask if we could have another week so
So
that
can you help
now.
us understand what additional information?
Yeah,
you
I
need?
did, I actually sent an email to Matt and he sent me back what he had sent prior. I asked for a bit of breakdown of the complete special education department, break down how many students, how many case managers that we're utilizing as special ed teachers.
100%.
All of our case managers are special ed.
Okay, you, Casey, I'm asking Meredith, cause she's
100%
with,
of that.
I think she's running the ship of special education,
Okay.
maybe not. But anyways, I asked for additional information, because this is an important decision this board's making tonight, and not only important to the student, but the taxpayers of Seabrook that told you no, we're not going to do that. So I asked for specific numbers, how many students,
So it's my
Can we
understanding that I
delegate-
provided you all that information,
Right.
if you did not, then please let me know specifically what is
Yeah.
missing, cause
Yeah, I
I believe
sent
I
you-
provided
yeah.
you all the
and I
information.
broke it down.
So
I did, I'm
just-
sorry you didn't see it.
If I missed something, I'd be happy to get
I
it,
thought
but
that was
I
the
believe,
email that you
yes,
said that you got yesterday, that you.
No, that's the breakdown that he sent,
This-
with Casey's questions.
And there was an
yeah,
additional email
you asked
to
me to
you.
print that email, but I sent
Yeah.
you a separate email,
I do not
And I-
have enough to go against the taxpayers of Seabrook tonight
so if you have
to say
specific
we're right.
information that you'd
I
like,
asked you
please,
very specific.
and I gave you specific information, so
I
if you
don't
need,
have the information.
I don't know how to help you do it.
It was emailed.
Well, I'll resend it to you. It was asking for numbers, staffing, how many do we
And I
have? We
provided
can
you
have,
all that information,
we
Maria.
can have up to 12 students per case manager / special education teacher, I don't know which one you wanna call it, but they're both, they can be a dual role. We have a lot of them here. And I am asking for specifics because before I want that teacher taken out of that classroom and not replaced, I need to know that we have to actually have it and not anticipating that we need it, we have to have it. And that's what I'm looking for, and I don't have enough information, and that's just me,
So
there's
the,
4 other board members.
so the information that Matt, for everybody watching, that we keep discussing going back, the information that Matt, Casey had requested information, a breakdown, about how many students are on IEPs, how many service minutes, per week or hours per week, and how many teachers are staffed. So Matt went through every single grade, preschool through grade 8, and also talking about access and everything. So I can share this because it's vague,
They have
but
it,
like
right? You guys have
you have that,
copies
so
of
okay,
it?
good, so you can see, but people at home, well, they're not watching it
Well, it's also
live.
it's also
It's on board docs, okay.
Well, actually, that's.
So that kind of describes, like, Maria, what you were saying about.
No, there's a whole column missing, Lacey. So we
what
have the
information
number
are
of
we?
student, we have the grade, we have the staff needed as 0.5 teacher. But who do we have in grade 1 or grade 2 or grade 8 or grade 7 that could actually fulfill those needs currently? And that's the piece I don't see here. Instead of adding more, who do we have
I
in
think
those
down-
grades that we can delegate to?
We don't have
We
that,
don't
so
have
I
enough.
can't conjure up someone that doesn't exist.
So you cannot use, the case managers or special education, or do you have, she's not here, the special education director, does she have an assistant now as well? That you're utilizing, from special education?
That's Ms. Butzer, who is currently filling part of the vacant position.
She's
She's not an
filling,
assistant, she's a teacher.
she's filling part of the vacant position at this time? And so that's my point, we're able to fill it at this time.
I don't think we are, because she's also helping to deliver services that are having to be made up through compensatory education. And when we have teachers absent, which with the number of staff that we have happens on a pretty regular basis, that someone is out, teachers, EAs, related service providers, we have to make up those services. And so we're using her to do a lot of that work.
Are you also using your case managers to do that?
They have full-time jobs already.
every day.
Their schedules are full.
And some schools don't have them at all.
No,
But
just,
we have
no, I
others.
just
So we're
wanna
lucky.
clarify, case managers are the special education teachers, it's just a
Right.
different term.
Right,
They are the teachers,
right,
the case managers.
right.
They're providing the instruction.
And writing the IEPs.
And we have 120 IEPs.
So I guess what we're telling the parents out there that, it's the board's fault because we did not have these 2 full-time teachers. And the board knew, not me, but the rest of the board knew very well that the IEPs were not being covered. And we did nothing about it until we're sitting here tonight going, wait a minute.
That's not true at all.
Exactly
You're very
not true at all, so how can you sit there and say, well, we just need to do it, because look, we need to do it. Have we asked the
lost.
administration to go and look at all those other positions in special education and see if we can, I think,
Oh, what other positions? do we
Casey,
have?
didn't you
Not
talk about
understanding.
delegating different things a couple meetings back a while ago? Have we looked at that, how we could delegate other staff members to pick up pieces?
Yes, that's what they're doing now.
No, now we wanna hire people.
That, but what you were just talking about.
Yeah. Now we just wanna hire 2
Meredith
more
was just
people.
talking
We
about.
wanna hire one more person and fill the vacancy that exists.
The vacancy that exists on a grant that's no longer available. So it's gonna cost how much for these 2 positions?
One
In
position
total.
is already funded in there.
How much?
As a taxpayer, could I just ask real quick, is there any way that we could get public comment open back up just for a minute so that we could speak? You guys kind of banter back and forth.
Yeah.
But I have a lacrosse game I have to get to and I know that.
Yeah, there was a play tonight
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
all didn't get to go to,
So
that Jen's
if-
son's in.
If we could open it up real quick, Ms. Laura could talk first, then I can talk after,
Sorry,
that would be
Jen.
lovely.
I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Yes, 5 minutes, please come up, introduce yourself, we'll open public comment.
Sure.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder.
Okay, there is no easy answer, right? We all know that. And Laura Litkowski, kindergarten teacher, I'm sorry. I'm also a resident, a town member, a taxpayer, and a voter. And I hear what you're saying, Maria, but this is not something you're concerned about going against the voters. We have a situation we have to fix. The voters maybe didn't understand, but we have to fix the situation. And again, no easy answer, but I'm going to share on behalf of the kindergarten team some thoughts that maybe will help you a little bit. There have been various proposals that have come before the school board where a member has expressed that they would like to know what the teachers think. We appreciate that this school board recognizes the impact that their decisions can have on us and that they want to consider our opinions. To that end, I am here to share what the kindergarten team thinks of the proposal to drop down to 3 kindergarten classes next year as a result of one of the current kindergarten teachers resigning. Although a cut like this is never ideal and larger class sizes bring on some challenges, we believe this is a sound decision. It is certainly a fiscally responsible solution to help with some of the budget deficit that was created when the school budget did not pass in the last election. The kindergarten team believes this is a way that we can do our part to help with this situation. Although we don't know what next year's enrollment will be, the estimated number of children, as mentioned, is expected to be about 13 to 15 children. Before COVID, this was a typical class size for us. We have done it before, and we can certainly do it again. Having said all of that, we feel very strongly about the necessity for having the educational assistants in every kindergarten classroom, to Casey's point that she was making. This is not a one-on-one or a shared EA, but as assistants that are available to help full-time with all the children in the classroom they're assigned to. At the last school board meeting, we shared some very positive student achievement data. We talked about the role of the reading interventionists that they played in this level of achievement. And I'd like to reiterate the importance of these teachers and the positive impact they've had by teaching small groups in our classroom on a daily basis. But in addition to the reading interventionists, this level of success could not have been accomplished without the support of the classroom EAs. They not only support learning in the classrooms, but in many cases, they facilitate daily literacy groups, enabling us to differentiate instruction and meet the needs of each student. Some of the children entering kindergarten have never had school experience and have a wide variety of needs, such as things as basic as toileting, many self-help skills, and emotional regulation. These dedicated EAs are essential to having the most successful and safe classrooms. While changes are necessary to compensate for the shortcoming of the budget, we feel very strongly that the classroom EAs are essential to our continued success, particularly when our class sizes will be increasing. But the bottom line is, as a kindergarten team, we are all okay with this decision.
Thank you,
Good
Laura.
job.
Thank you.
So, just,
If anybody else would like to come up and speak, and so we can close public comment.
Just real quick, Samantha Magnorelli, 198 South Main Street. I think we have a phenomenal kindergarten team, so if they're up for the challenge, then I think that they could definitely do it with EA support. I wanted to touch base with pulling the reading interventionist and turning it into a special ed interventionist. I have children here, which I told you. My daughter has struggled teetering at the line. She didn't get intervention until this year. And my fear of that is that if you're pulling the gen ed reading interventionist again, then you're gonna have more children that struggle throughout their years in the elementary school. And then before they go off to the middle school, maybe then they'll get 1 year of support. Whereas if I don't know where you're gonna find it. If you guys have a terrible job to have to find this budget, I feel bad for you, but taking from our gen ed kids, I don't think is the answer. So if you can find it, if you can delegate, if you can move people around, I don't know what the LEA coordinator is, but it says it does facilitates meetings and coverages IEP absences. How often are people out? I know people are out, but how often are they out? Would that person be able to take on some of this role to help some of our reading teachers stay in the spot that they're in? That's really it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna, okay, we have one more.
Me too. So maybe you guys can revisit the curriculum. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Huber 96 Farm Lane. So I noticed that the curriculum coordinator's contract was up this year, and maybe that's something that you could revisit again. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the SAU 21 budget, Seabrook's paying $77,000 towards a curricular coordinator over there. The other schools don't have one. Again, we're paying for one, and that contract is another contract you could think about this year. That's a good chunk of money, and utilize the SAU 21 one because we were at some point during a transition that was going on, and there was no concerns at that point, so just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna look. All right, I'm gonna.
Anne Marie Bianca.
Your address?
Highlander Drive, Northampton.
Thank you.
And I am here on behalf of the parents that have contacted me from Seabrook, and as you know, I work with many of them. I just want to bring up a couple things that I've spoken to them about and then convey some of their concerns. But I also wanted to add a couple things because I have communicated with you through email also. I think when you have an opportunity to do exit interviews with families who are leaving or teachers, you really need to capitalize on that. Other schools do that, and it is a huge eye-opener to them. I hope you'll reconsider that in the future. I know that Sanborn just came up with a policy when families leave the school district. It helps you identify the problems and how do you fix the problems if you don't know what they are. Your teachers who leave, they might be leaving for whatever, any reason. But if there's an issue in the school, that can be conveyed to you. That's a huge plus for you. And it's something I would think that you would want to know. I sent an email to this board a few weeks ago regarding the curriculum and the pedagogy. And is that contributing to your special ed costs and your special ed needs? Because when you're using faulty curriculum or faulty pedagogy, that can contribute to your special ed services needed. I did not hear any discussion tonight on that, and I think that is a number you need to know. How many of these kids are utilizing these services because maybe the curriculum or the pedagogy used or told to your teachers is not of the quality that it should be. Because once you fix that problem, your special ed costs should go down. If you're using something of quality, if your teachers are teaching in the classroom and they're using good pedagogy, a lot of times these kids don't need special ed services. I know this because I hear from these parents who tell me this. I know when they go to other schools, they don't need an IEP anymore. That's what that tells me. So I really think I want to make sure that you're not missing those opportunities to fix the things that need, go to the root of your problems. Where are the plans to address the bullying? I've been hearing these bullying issues year after year after year, and I've never heard plans. How are we going to address the bullying? I'm having to deal with these parents. You know that. And I just don't ever hear where's the plans that are going to be put in place. Maybe it wouldn't be so frustrating. You guys are frustrated. I see and I hear the frustration. I see and I hear the frustrations here. And I've seen it from your teachers. And a lot of times that's due to somebody's not communicating what the plan is. Here's our plan. Here's how we're going to address this. Just telling them, just the administration coming to you and saying, here's our plan. That's what you expect from executives, from your management in your schools. If you can just give them information, sometimes that will alleviate that frustration that you're getting aimed at you. And so I'm trying, I'm coming here not as a way to point fingers at anybody in your school. You've got an amazing team of people here. I know that. But the communication has got to be there so it diffuses some of this. There's a petition floating around that's calling for resignations. The number is increasing. because they're losing confidence. And I just don't hear the plans. Everybody's saying, we have a problem, we have a problem, we have a problem. There's been this problem for years. Where's the plans? And I think if that was communicated, that would diffuse some of the problems. It would help these people understand this is what the school plans on doing. So I thank you for your time. I'm not gonna continue, but I'm here to try to help you understand. Please, just reach out to these people, come up with something, expect better from the administrators and just communicate to them. What's the plan? I do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna close public comment at 6:20. So we,
Can I make a, I don't know time frame wise,
Yeah.
but maybe a proposition?
yes,
So we talked about for the default budget, like looking at cafeteria and that, but we don't know what that result's gonna be. And that could result in some savings. I know, Maria, you wanna push back the supplies, but maybe those savings could continue to fund the contracted person that we're already using to fill in some of these gaps where it's not a full-time person, and then hire someone instead of a kindergarten teacher. I don't know that, because we don't have those numbers, but maybe we make a decision on one thing and then we wait to get the math on the other thing and see if that is a possibility. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying.
so you wanna like move to utilize the kindergarten teacher position for this special education position and then speak about the interventionist and try to find money elsewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
With the caveat, which I already said, that the EAs continue to stay in there to support a larger classroom, separate from any specialized EAs that are needed.
And how do we assure that? That's, cause we've been hearing
I
about
am gonna
that
have
for
a
a while.
kindergartner, so I'll let you know.
You'll be in here by then. And that's the thing that kept coming up is, I think from Laura and concerns from other staff members. How can we assure as the board that our administrators are keeping those EAs in the classrooms that they need to be in with the students they need to be with? Because it poses a big problem when it continues to not happen. And it kind of takes away from everything, the services, the help for the teacher, the help for the kid. How can we as a board make sure that no longer happens?
How do you know it doesn't happen?
How do we know what?
How do you know it doesn't happen?
What doesn't happen?
What you just said.
The EAs, you haven't heard them stand up here in meetings and say that they're pulled, you haven't heard from parents that they're pulled. You didn't hear the parents say, the EA's not with my kid, you didn't hear any of that? Or you haven't over the year?
Because they're understaffed.
No, Michelle, it isn't, and if they're understaffed,
It is.
then maybe that big program that's $700,000 a year needs to go away. Cause that's where they're pulling them to places and putting them with kids that they're not trained to be with and they don't know. So that kid gets somebody, but not getting the services, and I think that, how can we assure that that doesn't happen anymore moving forward? How can we? That's all.
I don't disagree. I think specific to kindergarten for this is a little bit separate from that with some overlap. I don't know what the
So it's my understanding that we want that you want to make a motion to utilize the kindergarten resignation for a special education teacher. And that we will revisit, I mean, I don't see the chef's position being able to cover
I don't know what
another full teacher's position.
I don't either, but right now we're functioning, not ideally, but functioning with or non-functioning means.
I don't think we're functioning.
We're not.
We're not functioning.
A teacher cost would be roughly $130,000.
I know that's a lot more, I'm just thinking what we're doing, that's why I asked what we're doing now. So with the contracted person covering some of the services, the LEA covering some of the services.
But we're talking about increased services for next year, that's what we're in discussion about, is what next year's services are.
Are they services, like are these kids,
We
are
gave
they
you
referred
the,
coming?
yes, we gave you the breakdown of minutes specifically from IEPs for students who will be with us next year and receiving services, those aren't projections, that's math.
Okay,
We
so
added up the time.
I looked at, to compare. So some of the stuff that I was confused about, so this is next year's grade, is that some of this is increasing the kids that we currently have here, so are there more, is there a flux of need with current students?
Yes, from the time that we prep budget in October, right, to now, people move in, some students get identified, IEPs change, I mean, there are a variety of factors that impact that, but we are telling you right now, Mary just redid the math, that's what is in IEPs for students who are right now projected to be with us for next year, based on written IEPs.
How about all the kids that have left and that are gone?
Those are accounted for in that projection.
How could you account
Okay,
for somebody?
point of order,
Because we know the
please,
eighth
you guys.
graders that are
How
moving
could
on.
you account for somebody that just went out over the last couple of weeks, a month?
Well, it was done in March, so knowing in March who was left and accounting for the eighth graders who were leaving and knowing the preschoolers that are coming up to kindergarten, and anticipating what we have for preschool, that's why the preschool is labeled as anticipated. We, last week, received 11 new initial referrals to special education in 1 week, 11 more. So.
You guys, can you please be quiet so we can hear?
I think that's more what I was asking.
We'll do it again, I mean, we'll do a projection again in June, but where we are right now, our projection indicates that that's what's needed. We could need another teacher by the time we get to September or October. So things change, it's always a moving target in terms of what we need. Tim can tell you about the number of move-ins that we had this year that required one-to-one para support and how many students we had, and we were, trying to take from here, and we understand about what the kindergarten teachers are saying, they have to have that EA support, but when we don't have anybody else, we have to pull those general ed EAs to cover and to support when someone moves in and we don't have that position in the budget.
And
I
the
think you need to
teachers,
do an audit to see.
All right,
where the money
hey.
goes.
and the teachers need to understand that what you just said. So even though they're telling you we're gonna need that in our classroom, if you're gonna take this away and the kids are gonna grow in numbers, we're going to need those EAs in the classroom. But you're saying, I'm sorry, if we need them elsewhere, they've gotta go. You can't assure they're staying in that classroom
No,
for
we
the year.
can't, because we have federal obligation to meet
You should've
IEPs.
thought-
You're not meeting them.
Correct, and it's going to get worse.
It ain't nothing to do with the today.
Meredith, you've known for 3 years. you
Point of order, Cal, with all due respect, if
Sorry.
you yell out again, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, go ahead.
Mary, on the 11 referrals, those were general ed students.
Correct,
During the year
they are general ed students, yep.
that they,
A couple of them
Notice.
are
Yeah.
preschoolers that are not part of our program yet, but we've received new referrals. And the large majority of them are kids that are in our program now. And the teams that review their progress feel strongly that they need to be referred.
the teams.
The team,
Yep.
or it could be a parent referral.
Okay.
Parents may make a referral if they feel that their child
Yep.
potentially has a suspicion of a disability and they would like the testing and they'd like to determine that. So all of those things add to the caseload of a case manager, which is in New Hampshire, a special education teacher that is given additional responsibilities as a case manager. And so because of those responsibilities, it's not that we cap their caseload of students, but we have to look at it in terms of knowing that they also have to send out the meeting requests and, follow up with the paperwork, and they're responding to IEPs. So there's lots of things that our teachers, especially education teachers, are doing in addition to providing services. And so we build that time into the analysis that we do periodically. And it shifts here a lot, the transiency in
has.
terms of students who move in and students who move out. we can't always tell, but what we've seen is that the numbers of kids that are moving in are coming in with needs. So our IEP needs have been increasing even though your overall enrollment here is reducing, right? Which is why we can make a proposal like we did with the kindergarten. But our needs for students with disabilities continues to increase. That doesn't seem to be going down.
So the next question is, we're gonna not have the replacement of, that teacher. What grade's next that we can, pull teachers from? Cause that's what you're doing, that's what we're doing, right? We're gonna start decreasing teachers, making the class size bigger, and you just said we're
I
getting
think
more
it's
and more
hard in
need.
this economy to justify class sizes of 10 and 11
Yeah.
moving forward.
At
I
what
think you're gonna
point?
have to be looking at that as you go forward.
Well, you said
You're
that.
gonna be down another 11 students at the elementary school next year. That's part of why we think this is a reasonable proposal.
And you said too, looking, projected, that we don't know if we really can sustain 2 separate schools, correct? With 4 principals or assistants so maybe we should, as a board, be really looking at the big picture down the road, because if we want people to pass the budget, and that's what everybody pounded the sand for it, it didn't happen, why? They're telling us, do better. Whether it's do better with education, do better with bullying, do better with special education, do better. And we rely upon you and the administration to help us with that, and we need to do better.
But who said that?
Huh?
Who said that to
Who
us?
said what?
To think about the future and how the enrollment is.
You don't remember our retreat when
No, I do.
Meredith brought that to us?
I'm pointing it out as a good thing.
Yeah, no, I said that. She brought it up, but we need to talk about it more, I
But
think.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, more in depth.
She's looking to the future where maybe we're not in here, in the schools, we don't work in the schools, we work someplace else.
Mhm.
And they're giving us the input of the enrollments going down. But if the general ed enrollment's going down and special ed is going up, you still have to federally fund in these students.
Yep.
And document everything.
Could I just add a little bit more about the reading interventionist and how we sort of took a long time to study and look at that? By providing someone who has that kind of specialty and skill, a reading interventionist is a allowable individual with that license to deliver special education reading services. And so having someone come in with that skill, who can deliver that service on IEPs, right? Gives us, someone was just speaking about looking at your pedagogy, looking at your teaching practices, looking at instruction. So having someone work with special education students who have that skill. The whole idea about special ed is that, our goal in special education is to remediate deficits and return to general ed. We want to be able to reduce services over time, not increase them. When we do our job well, then we make recommendations after a year or 2 or 3 years. We hopefully can start increasing services back to general ed. So we thought this was a win all around for having someone with that kind of knowledge and certification to support us on the special ed side. Special educators do a great job. They are like jack of all trades. They can do all content by their license. They can deliver reading, writing, math, social skills, behavior intervention. They do it all. But having a reading specialist that has that particular skill set, we think would be a really good addition to our special education service delivery, and would alleviate some of that, because those services that are now currently written as reading, we would assign over to the reading specialist. So we think it's a win-win, which is why it was proposed, and we
What
had
about
long
general ed? How does it win?
conversations.
How does it win for the general education children that are receiving those interventions?
Also important, but we have,
But it's
we
a
do
win for
have-
them.
we do have
No, it isn't.
an interventionist team still in place, and the number of general education students is reducing. So that's what we know, so
I wouldn't wanna see.
we're putting the need where it goes.
Unfortunately, there's no winning.
There's no, right,
There's no winning.
There's no-
The
there's
budget
no-
didn't pass. We asked for the budget to pass. We asked for these teachers to pass. I get that people are frustrated for many different reasons, but to take money away when we need money for more teachers
When we need it the most.
It's just, it's hard because, you know, you wanna take away from general ed to give to special ed. It's just, it's wild. I don't think you guys realize how hard it is to be on this side of the table.
Oh, I know.
So, Meredith, you have something to say? I didn't mean to cut you off. No? Okay, thank you.
Is there enough support with the other reading interventionists to fill the needs of this person as well? And if there's not, also, are there, I don't know all the qualifications, but I know that some of our EAs, I think, are qualified to do some intervention, whether it's in the classroom or separate or pulling students. Can we cover all of the kids that this person's currently seeing?
I mean, Tim can speak to that, I think he's done that analysis.
And I don't have numbers in front of me, but I think one thing to note is that if a student is receiving intervention and they end up getting identified for an IEP,
Then they'll be special ed.
then they would be special ed, and so that leads to this handoff mid-year where they would then be getting that instruction from a different person. I think this solution allows them to continue to be seen by the same teacher. Kids are kids, like Meredith said, you know, they're general ed first, and so I do think they could continue to meet the needs of the general ed students. But yeah, that's really.
Yeah, I mean, I think you heard at the last meeting about the progress that's been made with kindergarten students in reading this year. Those students are moving into first grade, right? We're expecting as we continue to make the academic progress that goes back to, right, what you just heard from Ms. Banfield about, as we're continuing to make that progress and we've found a program that's really working for kids, fewer kids are gonna be referred for intervention.
And so
Nothing comes with guarantees.
Right.
So I think that audit that we talked about earlier too will help with not only identifying the needs and what is needed, but maybe finding areas that people are getting services that maybe they shouldn't be getting on the taxpayer dime, and that would save a lot for everybody. So I think that has a double purpose, and hopefully that will help us out moving forward. But I still, as much as I appreciate Tim, that, you know, if you take a kid that's getting reading services but may not meet the IEP at 504 level, but they meet the intervention level, but not the IEP, those kids are still there and there's still a need. And to switch it right over to special education, I am not anyway okay with taking the reading interventionist. We've sat here and talked about this for hours, not to touch those intervention. Why? Because we're seeing growth. Everybody's excited about growth. That comes partly with what they're doing too. They're a part of that team of growth. And to say, you know, maybe we can, you know, take one away and kind of try to keep the general ed included and everything, I don't see that. But that's just me looking from the outside in. What the plan is, I don't know.
Is there more discussion?
Do we go to next meeting and,
I think Lisa stepped out for a second.
oh, she
Yeah, I
did?
didn't notice it.
Oh, I didn't see
Yeah.
her stuff. Jen's gone.
Jen went to the park because her son's in.
I know I wanna go watch it too, but things we have to give up sometimes. To sit here,
But that's her son.
part of the play.
Sorry, you didn't notice you went.
No, I gotta go to the restroom, I'm
I
sorry.
didn't even see you leave. I was talking to you and you weren't there. Lacey, I asked if we're ready to make that decision on the interventionist for reading, because I am no way at all willing to take that and put that position into special education right now. I think we're all talking about progress and you missed that piece of it that I said, how can we even be thinking about that? We've sat for hours and said, no, we need that extra intervention with our general ed and our special education. And how can we sit here and say now that you know, Tim's saying, okay, move them to special ed, he thinks it would work, cause maybe some of those kids can go on an IEP or whatever, but that doesn't,
That was not what I said.
what was it?
There are kids already on IEPs that are
You didn't mean some kids that are in it can shift over to IEPs?
No.
Oh, okay. Cause that would be, you know, yeah, so I just don't, I don't know, I don't see touching interventionists and they're all here again, waiting, sitting on the edge of their chair, okay, are we gonna be here tomorrow, you know, next year working with kids? And this happens so much to them, they still stick around.
So do we have a motion on the floor?
Think you had one for the,
We do have a motion on the
Okay.
floor to
Yeah.
utilize the kindergarten resignation as a special ed teacher position.
And it was seconded?
No.
No, that
That's
was,
what someone had said earlier.
Yes, but there, I don't believe there was a second.
Yeah, there was no second. That was just,
yeah, we had a conversation. So I feel comfortable with that motion, so I can make that
So
motion with the kindergarten, about
You're gonna make the
utilizing
motion?
the kindergarten teacher, yeah. I'll make that motion if anybody wants to second it.
Casey with a second. And all in favor?
All in favor?
Casey, Lacey, Michelle, Maria?
no,
Thank you.
And then as far as the interventionist goes, Maria just stated her position on it. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns or ideas or?
Sorry, I didn't notice you left, so I apologize. Did you hear, were you here when I asked him a question?
Probably. About, I was here when, you asked him about utilizing the interventionist for stuff and Tim
Okay,
spoke. I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but I
yeah, that was it.
yeah,
Just wanna
Sorry,
make
I
sure
didn't
you,
notice, so I
you
don't-
were
yeah,
here
no, I
to talk
appreciate
about the
it, sorry,
rationale for,
I dipped,
for why, you know, we had long discussions about how to approach this and why there's a benefit to using a reading interventionist with that skill set
right,
on the special ed side, right?
I did,
Why
I
we
did
think
hear
that
that.
would be a win,
a win for the special education, but not for gen ed.
based
And
on,
that's-
based on enrollment and based on the fact that we have an interventionist team that would still remain in place. We felt confident bringing this proposal forward rather than the alternative.
And I think, did you have an idea, did you hear you, when you said about contracted, what we're doing now?
That was earlier,
Yeah,
but it sounds like that probably isn't possible. That there's more of a need than that one
And
person.
contracted services can
For
fix.
the-
Any other questions, concerns? This is tough. For this other, special education reading interventionist, is that the,
do we wanna wait until the next meeting to see what the cost that we can recoup and what more we need versus taking that reading interventionist out of the picture?
so my understanding, and Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that a reading interventionist teacher goes for about $130,000 with benefits, contractual obligations, things like that. If we cut the chef, even if we reduce all the supplies and equipment accounts, that $45,000, we're definitely not gonna be able to come up with
Full-time person.
$130,000. There's been different options floating out there, but I don't think that's something a decision that we can make tonight. I think it,
Lacey, something else too,
Yeah.
to consider. If we leave that position as a, so to speak, contracted position, and we found that we need another $50,000, it's not actually that we're funding, cause we know we couldn't take from the special education fund to create a new position. But we certainly, if we had a need that overrode what we have for contracted services for special education, it seems as though we could reach in to that pot for maybe 40 or 50,000 if we needed to.
There, I don't know where I remember where it was, but somewhere in one of these things we looked at tonight, there is currently coming up 2 out-of-district placements that will almost deplete that account
yeah,
Maybe.
significantly.
I do have the amount.
It said $270,000.
But we have almost, how much do we have in there?
we have 420,
Right, so that doesn't
but with
deplete
that, that's for
But
next
that's,
year.
and that's just for
And-
two kids, so
right,
then if we have one.
but right
This year,
now-
we're over budget this year, so
Right
you-
now, it doesn't deplete it, the money is there. So if we needed that 40 or 50,000, I'm just throwing a number out there, maybe it's only 20,000 additional to what we would have with the chef money.
the
I
chef
think that would
money's,
be a better alternative than taking away the reading intervention.
How many reading interventionists
you're gonna
do we
save
have?
approximately $30,000
About
if you
30,000.
cut the chef.
One for middle and two for
position.
elementary.
I think that, I don't know what's in those paid.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
We in elementary.
Well, then we could give up our salaries. That's $30,000.
We could give up our salaries.
And we can look, we've gotta keep looking wherever it is and dig. And if we need that money, we need it.
So I think Jen should be in here for that conversation, I think she should have a say where it's.
You
But I
want-
don't think, even with that, and I'm not knocking that, but even with that, I don't think we're gonna be able to come up with the money. I think if we give up that 30, and we try to find money here, I don't think we're gonna be able to find that. We can try, I mean, I have no problem, I'm not saying it's a definition, I'm just trying to be realistic where I don't think by piecemealing 30 here and 15 here and 40 there, that we're gonna be able to fund.
We just cut 166,
It's 166,000.
and that's this is our 5th default budget, so there's really, I'm not certain where you're gonna find another $100,000 to make up that difference to fund a teacher, cause that's approximately what you'd need.
Is there, I don't wanna keep postponing this because I don't wanna come here and have another 2-hour conversation and for us not to be able to make a decision, so I don't wanna postpone this decision either. You know, but it clearly needs to be filled. So,
And you have your votes if you wanna do it tonight.
If there was,
I mean, the alternative is, it's really like realistically, it's a reassignment of another position. So the other position that you could consider, which we've presented in the past, is another classroom teacher with we have these class sizes of 10 and 11, where they bring it up to, 13, 14.
I would rather, with all due respect, I would rather lose an interventionist than to lose another full-blown teacher.
But Tim
And that's-
said that
that's
wasn't
the impression we
unreasonable
got,
for
that's why
15,
we-
right, Tim, in a classroom?
It's not
15
unreasonable, we're
is
very
not-
lucky with our
Is
small
not.
class sizes compared to
So,
other schools.
If you could make that work,
Yeah,
I mean.
No
it would be-
way, we're already losing a kindergarten teacher, the kindergarten team thankfully is okay with it. They're a clutch team and I don't feel comfortable with taking another to reduce that because next year then what are we gonna do when there's another default budget, right? So I would rather see a reading interventionist be turned into a special, this is just my opinion, to be turned into a special education teacher versus to lose another teacher, to reduce another teacher for another grade. I think to do both at the same time, I think it's too much.
if we did these two things and revisit our cafeteria situation that might have some surplus but not a lot of surplus, could we possibly allocate, if there's money left in that, towards a part-time interventionist or a reading tutor? I know, Colleen, I think you use some tutors to help support that, right, in middle school? Could we possibly do something like that?
Fit in the option.
If you have class sizes of 10 and 11, realistically, your teacher's doing a lot of individualized instruction. I mean, it's such a gift to have class sizes of that size for the lower grades, right? So, I mean, that's why the need is less for intervention, because your teachers are able to do more individualized instructions. And so they would probably think that that's preferable than raising their class size and having more students in the class. That's why we talked through all these scenarios to bring you what we thought was the best case scenario of how this would work for everybody.
There's no win. There's no win. Like we can talk in circles, there's just no win. My God, like, there's just no win here. We need the special education services, we're in great need, we all know this, we've watched the last meeting, we've heard from parents. We see the data, right? We don't wanna push back the kids in general education because they're growing. My daughter's needs a reading interventionist, like many daughters and sons. There's no win.
We've tried to support it as much as we could to try
And
make
to
the
not
budget
vote and not
pass.
to vote for the budget because of that is just crazy to me. Because now we're in this position.
But you're damned if you do and you're damned if
Yeah.
you don't.
So
Then you have all this negativity instead of working together.
alright, so does anybody, before any motions are made, does anybody have any more ideas or requests or comments? Because we can put the motion out there. And I get that parents are gonna be upset, my daughter needs a reading interventionist, so she'll lose that.
It's not the only reading intervention position we have, just to be clear.
No? No one? Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion. Yeah.
I make a
Yeah,
motion
please.
to,
Oh, Michelle just left.
oh, just,
Thank you.
I do think, just reiterating while she's not here, that the plan is for the reading interventionists to do specialized reading, the other parts of that job to fall to other special ed people, so her focus is reading. And then I do think whatever comes of our last meeting, if there's additional funding available, we revisit how we can put that back into supporting
100%.
general ed kids.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you wanna give me the motion just so we can have it ready?
Oh,
And then you can just reread it,
A
please.
motion to accept the administration's recommendation to utilize a reading interventionist as a special education reading specialist.
I'll second that motion.
Oh, not yet.
Oh,
Can I
sorry.
just
We'll
ask-
give
I'm
discuss-
just-
I'll second to discuss.
Yeah,
Can I ask a
I'm just
question?
trying to get the motion ready for when Michelle
Yes.
gets back.
Thank you, I
Thanks for-
appreciate that, Denise.
So I hear the reading interventionist is going to be moved into the special education position, but what if they don't want that? What if they say no?
Then they can appeal it.
Oh, they can move elsewhere and then we have nobody. So, just a thought,
Good point.
We've been there before.
they don't have to accept that. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Right, we've been there before, right, and, they have every right to appeal that. And, that's something that we'll have to discuss when we get down that road.
And I don't know, I mean, to me, why can't we just stay in the contractual piece of it to one, respect the kids that are in the need and respect the teachers and also respect the taxpayers that told us no in a special warrant article? Why can't we do?
The taxpayers told us no in a special warrant article because they did not wanna fund it, and that's what they voted no on. They didn't
Is
say they
that-
didn't want special education, they voted down the article because they didn't wanna fund it.
Or did they feel we didn't have a need?
They,
I mean, I don't
it
know.
doesn't matter what they feel, but we do have a need.
Their vote matters.
Their vote absolutely matters, but they're voting because they thought it was creating a new position. We're not creating a new position, we're not allocating more money for a new position. We have to switch, just like when we didn't accept a preschool nomination and we had to move an interventionist into that preschool role, and we lost an interventionist because we didn't want to, myself included, accept a nomination. And that was the facts of it, and that's what happened.
Yeah,
It's
but
the
why did
same
that happen?
thing. It's the same
It was
thing.
manipulated.
So
And how
it's
we can,
not.
how can we, Lacey, how can we sit here right now? Cause there's papers here and I get it, but data can go two ways, you can look at data and it can be different from what you see in front of you today. But how can we sit here and say, okay, you've already put one position in that was a no, it's in there, and now you're gonna put another position in that was a no, warrant article no, and how can we say that that's gonna be enough, or that's gonna be the need, or that's gonna be covered, we're not gonna have any more IEP issues, right? Cause we've got 2 teachers we're hiring, or do we have a bigger elephant in the room of other things that we
We
need to
could-
look at as a school board member?
I agree with you, Maria. I think we could have a lot of issues. I think once we get I think if we investigate into this IEP thing a little bit more, maybe it'll come out and say that we need another special education
Cause,
teacher.
you know, and
I
I'm
don't
just
know
gonna
that.
go back to this too while we're talking about needs. I did not go to the March 30th meeting with the joint board. Obviously you can hear I'm still sick today, but I'm here. I know that you had reached out, I watched the meeting, and asked how we could get rid of a board member or something to that effect.
No, I
Maybe
didn't
you
ask
should
how.
have been asking the joint board, how can we hold accountability to our kids in Seabrook?
Maybe stop putting words in people's mouth, because I never said that.
You
I
didn't?
asked a question, nope, you can rewatch it because I was there and I lived it. You can rewatch it
What was
because
it?
I asked a question to the New Hampshire School Board Association on when is it appropriate for a board member to recuse themselves? Or if you feel like another board member should recuse themselves, is there any way to go about that? If you're in a situation where you feel like when is it appropriate to recuse yourself? I never said about getting rid of a board member. I never insinuated anything. I simply asked, and you can rewatch the meeting, what do you do? What do we do about recusing ourselves? What's the criteria about recusing ourselves? And if you feel like another board member should recuse yourself, what's the criteria? That's what I asked him.
And
So
what-
I did not ask that, so please do not put
When you
words.
recuse yourself, would it mean like,
It
say,
recuse from
yeah,
a
say
vote
I
or
had a
meeting.
student in special education tonight, would it be appropriate for me, knowing that I need those services for my child, is that what you mean, like to recuse yourself?
I
from
meant
things
recuse
that are-
yourself because you're too close that you shouldn't vote. Like if
Okay.
you're talking about
Your best
a
friend.
sibling, your best friend, a parent,
What services
someone
for
that
kids?
lives in your household. If you have to vote and you watch the
And it
meeting, so you
affects
listen
it.
to Will
I
explain.
didn't hear it all.
Oh, well
I
you should
just
rewatch
think I
it.
heard him say something
Yeah,
to the effect of
So-
can't.
Michelle, there was a motion made while you
Yeah.
were gone, to utilize the, reading interventionist, for special education reading interventionist.
Special education teacher or special?
Oh, I'm sorry, I
special
must have
education?
misspoke.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, could you reread it, please?
I
Yes,
will.
thank you.
Motion to accept the administration's recommendation to utilize the reading interventionist as the special education teacher.
Yes, so Casey made the motion, I seconded it, we had a discussion,
Okay.
well, a brief discussion. And then if you wanna, obviously discussion's still open, if you wanna discuss it, or we can go to vote. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Lacey, Michelle, and Casey, yes,
Any noes?
and Maria, no?
Thank you. Okay, so moving forward, we have, things to do in non-public. So Denise, when you're ready, I don't wanna rush you.
Nope, give me just 2 seconds here.
Yes, we do.
You're on for a motion for a roll call to enter non-public.
So I'll make a motion for a roll call to enter non-public session under RSA 91A3, which is it 2A?
Yes.
At 6:59 PM. And give me 1 second so that I can shut off this camera. Yeah, great. Thank you, Gary.
So we have, Lacey, you make that motion,
Yes.
and who was the second? For the motion, roll call. Casey will? And roll call, so Jen is not present. Lacey?
Yes.
Maria?
For in-home, yes.
Yeah. Michelle?
Yes.
And Casey? Yes. Thank you. Okay, now you're in,
Okay, give me 1 second.